Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Heather Lou.
I'm Montserrat.
And we are coming to you with our latest video called
Help! I f***ed my sewing project!
Am I the boss that has sworn the most in your career?
Yes.
It's a really sweary office. I feel like I've really set the standard for like F-bombs. And I'm sure there's people pearl clutching right now that we're doing this.
Editing your videos is very fun because of that.
Oh, because I'm swearing all the time. You can take the girl out of the blue collar city, but you can't take the blue collar city out of the girl. I have very colorful language. But I think a lot of us emphasize that, or empathize with when you're sewing and it's not going well, we tend to get a little sweary.
Yeah.
A lot sweary. And I think this was very triggering for us thinking about this video is like all of our early sewing experiences. Because I think obviously we can f up our sewing project throughout our sewing career, but it tends to happen the most kind of at the beginning when you're getting started.
Or when you're doing two things at the same time.
Like what?
Like you are listening to this video and you're interested kind of in what they are talking about, but like you're also putting the waistband in the wrong way and then you have to seam rip.
Okay, that commonly happens.
Yeah.
I would say too, if you're drinking.
Yeah.
I've learned the hard way. I can't even have a glass of wine. And so it's not gonna go well. Yeah. I can read and have a glass of wine. I can cook and have a glass of wine. I cannot sew and have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
I think we kind of grouped these ups in three categories, right? First one is cutting. Second one is sewing. And then the third one is just like the final result, right?
Yeah.
Let's call this first section, I cut it wrong.
Yeah.
So what are the ways that people often f up at the cutting stage?
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, you're cutting and then you inadvertently cut a tiny snip into your fabric.
Oh, like you over snip, like you cut into your fabric. That's happened to me before. Okay, or it's asymmetrical. I think this is super common, like any kind of asymmetrical pattern where you're only cutting one of one thing and it's really important that it happens on one side and then you cut it wrong and so the wrong side is facing up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what else?
When you don't have a clear wrong and right side of your fabric.
And you don't notice until after you've sewn it.
Yes.
This has happened. Okay, so especially if it's got like a nap. And you cut the nap in the wrong direction.
Oh, then the light looks different.
It like looks weird on it. Okay. Or you start cutting out your fabric and then you realize you don't have enough. Or you're supposed to cut a piece on the fold and you cut two pieces not on the fold.
Yeah.
And it's like a bodice. So you don't have enough width because you don't have enough seam allowance.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some of the ways you can say it.
Up your cutting.
I don't want to be the only one. Okay, but what are some of the ways we could fix it?
Okay, so let's say you're cutting asymmetric patterns.
Okay.
So you first make sure to mark the wrong side of your fabric.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then make sure that, like lay out the pieces and make sure that this side is the right side that I should be cutting. Like whether you should be cutting the fabric on the right side or on the wrong side.
And I think here, like I will freeball it a lot when I'm cutting. Like I've just been sewing for so long that most of the time I don't even look at cutting layouts. This is not the time. Like if it's an asymmetric pattern, you want to look at their cutting layouts and you want to pay attention. Okay, they are saying that this is the right side of the fabric and that this side of the pattern should be facing up. And you just really want to make sure you're copying and or just paying attention because maybe they screwed up and their cutting diagrams aren't right and you want to really like be sure you're cutting it properly to begin with. But
we try to pay attention to that kind of thing in our patterns.
It's like our bête noire. It's like the thing that like drives the team the most crazy and we're like very cautious of it. So you should be cautious cutting it out.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if you've already cut out your pattern and you don't have enough fabric because you cut the wrong piece out? Well,
maybe you can cut into an accent piece of fabric in a different color of fabric.
Make it color blocked.
Yeah.
So for example, this is an asymmetric pattern. So if I cut this side out of the wrong fabric and I didn't have more, I could have like a cool color blocked piece.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times like mistakes and ups actually end up being these amazing, we call them a design feature.
Yeah.
Mistakes are design features. And so then it can become a happy accident. And so instead of throwing the whole thing out, you could recut it.
You can also piece two pieces of, like if you have some of these, like a scrap of this one and a scrap of another one, you make a seam, then you can
Why don't you show us, because you did that.
I made this one. This is a cielo that has lived through several years. And in the back, I didn't have enough fabric to cut the full arm side. So I realized, okay, I can make a square here and put this piece of extra fabric here and then be able to cut after I sew this.
Oh, you like really put like a little patch in.
Yeah.
The other thing I've often done is like, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I have a piece that's like just here and just here. You can basically like exactly like you're saying, like kind of patchwork a piece of fabric together and then use your pattern piece to cut it out.
Yeah.
You could also make it like, again, make it a design feature. So maybe you end up adding seam lines where there weren't seam lines. So that's some cool ways. I have another thing. I think I started cutting this out and then realized that there was no way that I was going to have enough for the facings. Mm-hmm. But because it's this embroidered fabric, I was like, well, I don't even know if I want the embroidery touching my body. Yeah. So I just use different fabric. So if it's like a non-visible, if it's a facing or if it's a waistband, you're not going to see it, and you don't have enough fabric. Yeah. You can always just go and use contrast
always,
fabric.
I would like to say this. My recommendation is to always cut the main pieces first.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Because if you don't have enough, you can fix it with other kinds of fabrics in the areas where you don't see it so much, but the main fabrics pieces are important.
Now, what happens if you f up your sewing project, you like cut into the fabric, into the seam line, and we're like assuming that you don't have room. Like, how can you fix this like cut that you've made into your fabric?
Well, you make another, like you patch it, or you put like a visible mending.
Yeah.
You put a patch in the back and you put like stitches in the front.
We'll show you how to do that in our second section. I'm up the sewing.
Yeah,
because that's often when that happens. But there are ways that you can kind of save it. I also like putting, like a patch of interfacing sometimes. Yeah. And if let's say you like notch a little too far in, sometimes you can like fudge your seam allowances. Like sometimes I'll just sew a 3/4 inch seam allowance instead of a 5/8 seam allowance and like kind of hide my screw up that way.
Yeah. Heather also likes to use a serger to equalize the seam allowance.
Oh, I like to smooth the seam allowance. Like, ooh, I screwed up, and I'll just I'll cut it off. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, if you're like, ooh, I don't have enough fabric, you can't really do this if it's a directional print. But sometimes I will rotate the patterns because sometimes weirdly, like you'll get more yield when you cut on the cross grain instead of cutting on the lengthwise grain. So if it's not really important because the difference in drape between a crosswise and lengthwise grain is not that dramatic. Yeah. So sometimes I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the recommendations is if you're tight on fabric, cut your big pieces first and also lay out the rest of your pattern pieces so that you get an idea. Yeah. If you're gonna have enough.
Yeah, I like to do, we are kind of spoiled here because we have this really long cutting table, but I kind of like mock up the entire thing sometimes, especially if I'm not sure if I have enough fabric. You don't want to just start and then like get halfway through a dress and be like, I don't have enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that did happen, I'm like, add a seam line. Yeah. And then make it a color, like make it a feature, do it in a different fabric, color block it, do a print. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. Okay, second section. Help. I up the sewing. Okay, so what are we doing when we're up during the sewing?
So you are sewing and you realize that you had an extra piece of fabric into your seam that you were not supposed to.
Oh, that's a good one. That happens all the time.
All the time with sleeves and necklines and things that ease into other things. It's like.
So what's the solution?
Waistbands. So you unpick.
The old seam ripper, but you want to be kind of delicate with it. Like you don't want to rip your stitches. Yes. That happens. That still happens to me all the time. That's why whenever I'm setting a sleeve in, for example, I always baste it in first, and then I turn it around and I check and make sure everything's smooth. And then if I up, I'll just go and like rip out that little section, smooth it out, and sew it. Mm-hmm. I feel like another thing is people they just sit down at their machine. They like have everything cut out. They sit down at their machine. They have a glass of wine or are listening to a podcast and they just start sewing. They haven't looked at their needle. They're like, maybe it was a knit needle from their last project. Maybe they haven't changed their needle in 15 years. Whatever thread it is, they're not adjusting the tension. They're just sitting down at their machine and they're sewing. And I'm sorry, I'm not judging you if you're one of these people. Maybe. No, I'm not judging. But I think it's really important before you like sit down is you get a scrap of whatever fabric is left over and you just like test your machine first. Yeah. Like, okay, what's the best stitch length? Yeah. Does my needle work? Yeah. Is it pulling?
That's the thing. Like, you don't want to have seams that are pulling. That looks horrible.
I find with viscose too, because they're so tightly woven and they're so fine, that if you're using like, I don't know, you're making a pair of jeans before and you have a size 16 needle and now you're using this really thin, silky viscose, you're going to get snags in your fabric.
Yes.
You want to use either a really lightweight needle or a microtex needle. So I think like, I guess we can give you tips about how to fix it if you fucked it up, but to maybe just prevent cups to begin with. I've been saying it. Why am I now whispering it? You might just want to like take that second to like make sure that your settings are correct before you like start sewing.
Yes. Keep your scraps of fabrics after you cut your project.
Now you had one here that just said pin everything. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So if you're a beginner and you're sewing curves together,
yeah,
that is super bound to not work, right? So don't be afraid. If you're sewing a sleeve into an arm side and you are freaking out because it's not working because you're getting pleats or whatever, put as many pins as you want. It's part of learning.
Using a lot of pins.
Yeah.
I think the more experience you get, like the less you kind of tend to rely on.
Yeah.
I use my fingers a lot and kind of am good at manipulating the fabric. I feel like another up is choosing the wrong fabric.
Yeah.
Like that's the most important decision you got to make.
Yeah.
And I know when I was starting, I feel like I should have just kept a box of all of my early projects, just like I don't know if I had journals or something that like they're like my sewing journals, but I remember just having kind of no idea when I was looking at a pattern what kind of fabric would work for it. And I think the most common mistake people make is choosing fabrics that are either too drapey or not drapey enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like mine was a total disaster. Like I chose a knit fabric to go with a woven fabric and it was like princess seams and I was like crying because the fabric was stretching and it wasn't matching the notches and I was like, why did I do this to myself?
You mixed a knit and a woven?
Because I didn't know.
Oh, okay, well, I feel like I would have known better, but
that's my first project.
Okay,
that's how I learned.
Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't even be such a right now. There's a swear word we haven't used right now. I think what's common is people will use drapey fabrics for structured things, and drapey fabrics are like not great. Like a fitted bodice with darts, like you don't want to use like a rayon challis with that. Like it's not going to hang right. It's not going to sit right. So I think that kind of thing, or just and then the other thing, I think interfacing is a big thing. Mm-hmm. When you don't understand interfacing. So I remember I made this really cute little vintage baby doll dress. Maybe we'll get Jimmy to put it here. It looks cute from the outside. First of all, though, it was polyester.
Yeah.
Which I never ended up really wearing it that much because I hate polyester and it makes me so sweaty. And I'm thinking about us wearing polyester right now in this sweaty room and how much worse it would be. But anyway, there was like a facing and I was like interfacing, like I don't know. And I went to the fabric store and I bought whatever. And it was so stiff. It was almost like the little interfacing you would use for like upholstery. Like it was like stiffer than this. And so it really like was really stiff under the dress and kind of showed through. I think that's like a thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that I know that happens frequently, especially when people are using sergers, is it's kind of the same as like your face.
Yeah.
It's the same mistake, but like instead of at a sewing machine, when you catch something and then you notice and you can rip it out.
You know to go slowly and like caress your fabric away from the blade.
But you didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then your fabric got stuck and then you didn't notice and then it like trimmed a hole in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's happened so many times.
Yeah.
You know what happens all the time for people too is when they're sewing jeans and they're like serging the fly extension and they're not careful and then they catch the crotch in it and they like cut. I've had a lot of students where that's happened. So my solution for this is rather than throwing the whole thing out is doing a patch or visible mending. And I have a good example of this. So this again can be like cute and it can be a cute detail. So this was like a ready to wear shirt and it's double gauze and it was really delicate and I don't know what I was doing. So this wasn't technically a sewing up, but I got it snagged on something and it ripped this huge hole in the double gauze and it's been sitting in my mending pile forever. And then finally I was like, I have to fix this. So you can do this at basically any stage of a garment. You could do it with your fabric, you could do it with your garment after it's finished. But I just applied a piece of like lightweight fusible on the wrong side of the fabric. And you could technically maybe leave it at that point. You could go and do invisible mending where you basically use like your sewing machine and a matching thread. to go over the area and kind of like match almost the direction of the weave of fabric. So I've done that before. You could do like visible mending where you're like making a feature out of it and maybe you add a little bit of embroidery or whatever. And so that interfacing like basically helps stabilize that stitching. So I could have done that, but then here I actually just did this really cute little patch with a similar weight fabric. And I just think this is so cute. Like I love that it has like a weird little patch on it.
Yeah.
And I'll have this for a long time. So maybe I'll have more patches and accumulate that.
I did my first visible mending here. This
Cute.
is like a pair of pants that I wore to death. The fabric is kind of almost transparent right now.
Well, it's linen.
So there's like a bit of a cut here. And then I did add the interfacing in the back. And then I added fabric. And then I traced my squares here. This was my first trial to visible mending. Yeah.
I love that visible mending. The Japanese call it boro. And that looked like almost like a sashiko style embroidery. And when you have garments that have that vibe, they have like that wabi-sabi feel, which is just like celebrating the beauty and imperfection. And like we're wearing our clothes all day long and they're going to get worn, and or you're like investing all this time. You're like a human being, fallible human being. Like I think there's something kind of nice about celebrating our mistakes rather than trying to hide them.
Yeah. And I'm continuing to love the things that we like wearing and are our favorites. Like, I love that.
Could we give some like philosophical help, like while this is happening and it's getting screwed up and you're getting really frustrated?
Just stop. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah. And then after you have some space, think, is this really gonna make a big difference? Like you stressing and having so much anxiety about this, is this really gonna be visible? Are people gonna care? Can you live with it?
I think like that just stopping and walking away is really important. Like when you're like in tears because something isn't working, you're not going to fix it in that moment. And if you manage to, it's not even gonna feel good.
Yeah.
Like it's so important to just be like, I'm going to put this down. It's okay. I'm okay. Yeah. Everything is okay. This is not a catastrophe. I am, as a human being, I have value and worth. Like this is not a reflection on who I am. I'm putting it away and I'm walking away. And then often it's like, maybe you're just gonna sit and reflect in that time. Okay, what's going on with that? You know what? I think I just actually picked the wrong fabric for this project and I might need to stop. It's okay to actually stop. I know you don't like having unfinished projects, but I think it's okay to be like, no, this is just kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
And it's okay for me to walk away. You might also take a breath and come back and have a little space to think about it and be like, oh, I'm gonna try this. Or I have a cool idea for how I can repair this or fix it.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the most important tip is just to like stop, breathe, walk away.
Yeah.
I also think just doing a little bit of problem solving and like asking yourself, is it a problem with my fabric? Is it a problem with my needle? Do I need a walking foot?
Like troubleshooting.
Troubleshooting, yeah. Or like, is my machine having problems?
Yes.
Because sometimes it's just the machine. And again, I come back to jeans because I have so much experience with people sewing jeans. Sometimes machines just like freak out when they're going through denim and when you're doing top stitching and lots of layers, like really thick things. Like I think machines just are like get stressed and tired and are like, I need a break. And so your needles will skip stitches or you'll start getting like threadness or whatever. And again, I think the solution is like stop, walk away, give it a minute.
Yeah. Like I have in the classes, I see so many people frustrated with the buttons and afraid of buttonholes.
Yeah.
And they have worked on this beautiful coat and they finish and they're like, I can't wear it because it has no buttonholes. Or the jeans. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can source that out to someone who can do it better than you that you trust.
There is actually a place in Montreal that does buttonholes. It's like a tailoring shop. And sometimes if we have like a million coats and we have like a photo shoot in 2 days and they're feeling nervous about screwing up a buttonhole, sometimes we'll go get the buttonhole. Not all the time, but sometimes I'll take it over to the tailoring.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we be vulnerable?
Yes.
What are some of our biggest sewing f***ups?
Bias binding for the first time and cutting into my fabric. It was horrible.
What happened?
I was cutting into my fabric and I didn't realize until I finished my garment and there was a hole in the fabric. I was like,
what did you do?
It was a hole. I didn't see the hole when I was cutting it, or I cut the hole there or something happened. And then I just like put a patch of fabric from the bottom with some glue and
it fixed
Yeah.
it. Again, I'm like trying to think back. I think one of the early sewing disasters I had, it was with a big 4 pattern. It was with a Rachel Comey dress, and it was kind of a complicated design. And I could not freaking figure out these instructions. Like, it was like not coming together. And I felt like I was losing my mind. It's like, what is going on? And I think this happens sometimes. I know we have a lot of customers that will email us and they're having this experience. And they're like, the instructions are wrong.
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. I actually had that happen. We were at the trade show and we had one of my sewing suppliers came up to me. She was like, these instructions are wrong. And this doesn't make any sense. And I like sat down with her and we went through the booklet and we sat through it and I showed, she was like, well, where's the instruction for that? And I like pointed to it. She was like, oh, I missed that. So sometimes sewing instructions are just for whatever reason that day we are like struggling to understand. Yeah. I think that can be like a big issue that people can have is just whatever, like you're reading the words on the page and it's just not tracking for you. And especially if you're like then looking at a 2D garment. So I think that can be really frustrating. So I was like, oh, like maybe I'm just having one of those experiences. But what I realized, I was like, no, this pattern piece is drafted incorrectly. Like there was like a big, I don't remember specifically what it was, but there was like a big drafting issue with it. And then once I realized, oh, like this isn't me, I think I just adjusted or fixed the pattern piece, like whatever I ended up doing to fix it. And I ended up saving it. But part of that could be like, is this me and is it my problem? Is it a problem with the pattern?
Yeah.
Or do I just, again, like need to stop and walk away?
Yeah.
Okay. Third category of sewing ups is help. I up the entire garment and I hate it.
Yeah. So that has happened a lot. Especially at the beginning.
Especially at the beginning.
Yeah, I used to make things too small. And then I loved it for just like an hour until I realized I can't wear this, it's too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's very sad.
That happens, or sometimes you kind of skipped a muslin.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't feel like it, and you're like, it's fine, it'll be fine. And then you go to wear it and it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And then you're so sad because you spent so much time.
Yeah. It's not worth it. Take your measurements, do the right size that is recommended, make a muslin.
Okay, but are there some ways, like I think there are ways at that stage still to salvage them. Like there's a lot of fit adjustments that you can make to patterns post sewing.
Yeah.
We can take things in. If you haven't really like gone close to the bone, we can let things out.
You can add a skirt, like one of the common ones.
Your trick, like you do this all the time.
Yeah. One of my common alterations or things I do when I'm like, oh, this is kind of not very comfortable in my hips anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna crop it and then add a skirt and then wear it like as a tunic or as a dress.
You come in all the time and I'm like, that's such a cute dress. And you're like, I just made it with the shirt I had forever and I added a ruffled panel and it looks great. Or ruffled panel. A gathered panel is what I mean to say.
Yeah.
Your next option is you could just say it with me. Call it a muslin.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't start out as a muslin, but it ended as a muslin. Yeah. So you can kind of take whatever lessons you can learn from that and move forward. I really think it's important, I think just like on a philosophical or like emotional level, is especially, I think I make these mistakes a little bit less as I'm, through my career. I'll still make projects sometimes where maybe it's sewn well, but I was like, I actually don't like this fabric or it's not working for me. Or actually this style isn't my favorite. And I try not to look at that as this like monumental waste of time and energy.
Yeah.
I had fun sewing it. I learned, I'm always learning things along the way and I can always give it away to somebody else.
Yes.
Like I think it's really important not to look at those sewing failures as failures.
Yeah.
Like it's a learning experience.
Yes. So a lot of people like to wear these things, wearable muslins at home. If they are comfortable enough, you can try altering them, as we said, like add a stripe, change the skirt, open the seam. Like I have a lot of shirts that I realized an alteration that I wanted to do for a lot of mine was like opening the side seams and adding a gusset. I was like, oh, what a great alteration. I can open my wardrobe, right, with this alteration. So that, and sometimes we're just too hard on ourselves. And they're like, I remember there was this knit dress that I made and the bias tape, as I was saying, was a failure. And I was like, this is horrible. How am I going to wear this? And then I wore it once after I finished it because I always kind of wear what I make, at least for an hour.
Yeah.
And then I wore it and people said, oh, wow, it looks amazing. It looks amazing. And I'm like, I don't think so, but okay. And then slowly my perspective changed.
Well, we see flaws that no one else sees. When you look in the mirror, think about this. Like, think about your friends who are like, I hate my lips or I hate my wrinkle lines or whatever. And you look at them and you're like, I just see a beautiful person.
Yeah.
I don't see your pimples. And you almost like are like, are you nuts?
Yeah.
But then we look in the mirror and we just find all of the things that we hate about ourselves and we focus on them. And we do the same thing with the clothing that we sew.
Yeah.
Where because it's ours and it's some extension of our identity, it then becomes a repository about all of our like crappy feelings about ourselves. And I think that is like, I always think there's like a lot of spiritual work that I do when I'm learning a new thing. And like, this is one of the things that I've learned over time is that my mistakes in my sewing are they're okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with the garment. And like just not taking it so seriously and being so hard on yourself about it. Life is too short. I will say, if you just end up with this, no matter what, it's like, it doesn't matter. I can't fix it. I don't have any ideas for fixing this. I can't alter it, whatever. I think keeping a box with those projects is really helpful. Scraps.
Yeah.
Testing, like whatever. You can use it as a muslin. But sometimes like we like having clothing swaps in the studio once a year. And so maybe it's not the project for you, but you're going to bring it and it's going to be like the perfect project. You are always getting stuff in sewing swaps, I feel like.
Yeah, no, not sewing swaps. You know where? We have in Montreal these plus size thrift store.
Oh, right.
And I just love keeping my makes and the things that no longer fit me, no longer make me feel happy, and just bring it there because I know sometimes how hard it can be to find the clothes in your size when you're thrifting. And it's just like a gift. I brought this to you. I made all these things. I hope someone can enjoy them.
But I feel like you have a couple pieces where you're like, oh, somebody gave this to me. I got it in a swap. So I think that can be like a really invaluable way. But basically, long story short, you f***ed it up, but it's okay. Life goes on, and you're going to hopefully f*** up less next time.
Yeah.
Do we have any other closing thoughts?
No? Just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, and f*** ups are important.
Same.
And we learn from them.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Hopefully that was inspiring or encouraging. And if you have any really bad that you would like our help with, leave us a comment and we'll try to help.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.